Sometimes the ocean looks calm, almost too calm. But behind that silence, something was waiting for me. Something that would turn my perfect day into the most terrifying memory of my life. The morning started like a dream. The sun painted the horizon gold. The waves rolled in with a steady rhythm, and the salty breeze whispered the promise of freedom. I carried my board under my arm, smiling, completely unaware that I was about to step into a story I would never escape. The ocean looked friendly that day, almost inviting, like it wanted me to trust it. And I did. I paddled out, feeling the cold water bite my skin before it surrendered into comfort. Every stroke brought me deeper into the blue, and every second I felt more alive. Around me, laughter echoed from other surfers, and on the shore, people cheered as boards sliced through waves. Everything screamed paradise. Yet beneath the surface, something else stirred. Something darker. The first sign was subtle. The seabirds that usually circled overhead suddenly vanished. The sound of the crowd on the beach seemed muffled, almost distant. And then it hit me. That eerie sensation that you're being watched. I shook it off. It's nothing, I told myself. Just nerves. I caught my first wave flawlessly. The rush was intoxicating, the spray of salt on my face, the raw energy of water carrying me like I was untouchable. I felt invincible until I saw it. Just for a split second, a shadow, long, dark, and impossibly fast, gliding beneath my board. My chest tightened. My instincts screamed louder than my thoughts. Something is here. The wave ended, and I plunged into the sea. That's when everything changed. The ocean, once alive and playful, fell into an unnatural silence. It was as if the world had stopped. The water around me grew heavy, the silence deafening, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I floated there, unaware that every second was carrying me closer to the jaws of something I could never forget. And then, in that haunting silence, I realized the ocean wasn't empty. It was watching me, and it was about to strike. They say when a shark chooses you, you don't see it coming. But I did. For one horrifying second, I locked eyes with it. And that second felt like forever. The silence of the water was broken by a sudden shift beneath me. The shadow returned. But this time, it wasn't gliding away. It was circling. I felt the current change. The water pressing against my legs, as though the ocean itself was warning me to run. My lungs tightened. My board floated uselessly a few feet away, and for the first time that morning, I wasn't a surfer. I was prey. I turned my head, and there it was. A massive dorsal fin sliced the surface just yards away, cutting the water like a blade. My blood ran cold. Instinct told me to stay still, but terror told me to move. My arms began to thrash, desperate to reach the board, desperate to reach anything. That was the mistake. The shark lunged. The impact was violent, like being hit by a car underwater. Its jaws clamped onto my leg with unimaginable force, and in that instant, the ocean erupted into chaos. Pain shot through my body like fire. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the sound. A sickening crunch, muffled by the water as bone met teeth. The water around me turned red. I remember the heat of my own blood mixing with the cold of the sea. I remember screaming. Though underwater it came out as nothing more than a bubble. My vision blurred as the shark dragged me down, thrashing, twisting, its power so overwhelming that for a moment I stopped fighting. I thought, this is how it ends. But instinct refused to let go. My fists hammered against its rough skin. I clawed at its eye, punched its snout, anything to make it release me. Seconds felt like hours, each one stretching into an eternity of terror. And then, as suddenly as it had taken me, the shark let go. The ocean swallowed me in silence again, my body spinning, weightless, broken. But this wasn't survival yet. The shark had tasted me. And when a predator tastes blood, it always comes back. The ocean wasn't letting me go. The shark had vanished into the depths. But the blood in the water told me one thing. It would return. And if I didn't fight, I wouldn't live to tell this story. I floated there, dazed, my leg torn open, the salt water burning every nerve. My vision pulsed between clarity and darkness as the tide pulled me away from my board. The silence was unbearable, too quiet, too still. I knew what that meant. The shark was circling again. Every instinct screamed at me, move, fight, survive. Maybe kicked with my good leg, forcing my body upward, lungs begging for air. My hands clawed the surface until I broke through, gasping, spitting salt water, the taste of blood still thick in my mouth. I looked around, praying for my board, for my friends, for anything that could keep me alive. Then I saw it. Just beneath the surface, the unmistakable shape moving closer, faster this time. A torpedo of muscle and teeth cutting straight for me. I had seconds, maybe less. Adrenaline drowned out the pain, and I raised my fist. When its head broke the surface, I struck with everything I had left, slamming my knuckles into its snout. The beast flinched, its massive body twisting just enough to miss me. But it didn't stop. It circled again. Each pass tighter, closer, its tail slicing the water like a whip. My blood was a beacon, dragging it back to me with every heartbeat. I remembered what I had heard once, that sharks are relentless when they know you're weak. And I was weaker than I had ever been. I screamed for help, my voice ragged and broken, hoping the sound would carry to the shore. Somewhere in the distance, I thought I heard voices. But I couldn't be sure if they were real or just echoes in my fading mind. The predator lunged again, jaws wide. And once more, instinct saved me. I shoved my hand into its gill, a desperate move, my nails digging into the soft flesh. The shark thrashed violently, the force nearly tearing me apart. But it recoiled, retreating just enough to give me a chance. That chance was all I had. I clawed toward my board, dragging myself over it, clinging to it like a lifeline. My arms shook, my vision dimmed. But I refused to let go. Not yet. Not like this. I had survived the second strike. But the battle wasn't over. The shark wasn't finished. And neither was I. I thought clinging to my board meant safety. But out there, miles from shore, safety was just an illusion. And as the water grew redder, I realized I was running out of time. My arms wrapped around the board like it was the only thing keeping me alive. Because it was. The ocean swayed beneath me, every wave carrying me higher, then dropping me back into a nightmare I couldn't escape. My leg was shredded, my blood painting the surface, and each drop was a signal calling the predator back. I knew the shark wasn't gone. I could feel it. I could sense the water shift beneath me, like the sea itself was holding its breath. Then, through the haze of pain, I heard it. Voices. Faint, scattered, carried by the wind. My friends on the shore had seen the struggle. They were screaming, pointing, scrambling for anything that could reach me. But the beach was far, too far. The shark circled again, its fin slicing the water, closer, closer, closing the distance with terrifying patience. My body trembled, exhaustion taking over. But I refused to give up. I pounded on the board, shouting through the pain, trying to make myself bigger, louder, more dangerous than I felt. For a moment, it worked. The fin dipped below the surface and vanished into the depths. That's when I saw salvation. A lifeguard, paddling furiously toward me on a rescue board. His eyes wide with fear and determination. Every stroke looked like a race against death. Behind him, another surfer followed, ignoring their own safety to reach me. I could hardly lift my head, but my soul clung to that sight. I wasn't alone. The lifeguard reached me just as the water beneath us stirred again. The shark was back, and this time, it came fast. He yelled at me to hold on, and with one swift motion, he dragged me across the rescue board, his body shielding mine. The surfer on the other side splashed violently, trying to distract the predator, their screams echoing like war cries against the sea. The fin broke the surface, slicing closer, circling tighter. My rescuer paddled harder, his muscles straining, veins bursting with effort. Every second felt stolen, every inch toward shore, a battle against a predator that refused to let go. We were so close. But when the shark came again, it wasn't circling anymore. It was charging. I thought I had made it. I thought rescue meant safety. But as the shark surged toward us, I realized I was still just one heartbeat away from dying. The rescue board glided forward, cutting across the waves with desperate speed. My rescuer's arms moved like pistons, each stroke fueled by adrenaline, each second stretching into eternity. Behind us, the water erupted. The shark had returned, and this time, it wasn't circling. It was charging. I felt the vibration through the board, the raw force of something enormous slicing through the water. My body shook uncontrollably, not just from blood loss, but from the certainty that I would feel its teeth again. The surfer beside us screamed, splashing wildly, buying precious seconds with sheer defiance. The fin rose higher, closer, its path locked on us. "Hold on!" the lifeguard shouted, his voice fierce but trembling. I gripped the board with what little strength I had left, my fingers slipping against the salt and blood. The predator struck. The impact slammed the underside of the board, nearly flipping us into the sea. For a moment, I was weightless, my vision spinning, the taste of death inches from my skin. Then it was gone again, vanishing beneath the waves, retreating to circle, to plan another strike. The lifeguard didn't stop paddling, his muscles burning, his eyes fixed on the shoreline that still looked impossibly far. My breaths came shallow, ragged, each one harder to draw than the last. Darkness crept at the edges of my vision, and for a terrifying second, I considered letting go. But then I heard it, the sound of people screaming from the shore. They were running into the water, waving, yelling, creating chaos in the surf. My rescuers weren't alone anymore. A human wall had formed, desperate to push me closer to safety. Their courage lit something inside me. I wasn't ready to die. Not here. Not like this. The board surged forward again. Every wave a battlefield, every second stolen from the predator's jaws. But the ocean had one more test. One final moment where everything hung in the balance. Because as we reached the shallows, the shark came once more, its silhouette cutting the surface like a blade. We were feet from the shore, and yet, for the last time that day, I felt death rushing straight toward me. The ocean didn't kill me, but as I opened my eyes, I realized survival came with a price, and I wasn't sure I was ready to pay it. The last thing I remembered was chaos, the screams on the shore, the crash of waves, the shadow of the shark lunging one final time. And then, nothing. Darkness. Silence. When I woke, it wasn't to the sound of the sea, but to the steady beep of a machine. White lights burned above me. The smell of antiseptic filled my lungs. For a moment, I thought I had died. But then the pain reminded me I hadn't. It tore through my body in waves, sharper than any knife, deeper than the bite itself. I tried to move, but my body refused. My leg, bandaged, stitched, wrapped in layers of gauze, felt foreign, as if it no longer belonged to me. A nurse leaned over, her face calm, but her eyes heavy with the weight of what she had seen. "You're safe now," she whispered, though the word safe felt fragile, almost broken. Moments later, the doctor entered. His voice was steady, professional, but I could hear the edge beneath it. "You're lucky to be alive. Most don't survive this kind of attack." Lucky. That was the word they used. But as I lay there, tubes in my arms, my body weak, my mind replaying the sound of teeth crunching into bone, I didn't feel lucky. I felt haunted. Haunted by the image of that shadow beneath me. Haunted by the silence before the strike. Haunted by the knowledge that I had come within seconds of vanishing forever into the sea. Family and friends came. Their tears, their smiles, their trembling hands gripping mine, reminded me I was still here. Their relief washed over me, but so did guilt. I saw the fear in their eyes, the way they looked at me as if I might disappear again. Survival wasn't just mine to carry. It was theirs too. Lying there, I realized something deeper. The ocean hadn't just scarred my body. It had marked my soul. The sea, once a place of freedom, was now a place of nightmares. And yet, deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. Because surviving wasn't just about living. It was about choosing what to do with the life I had left. I had survived the attack. But the real battle was just beginning. The battle to live again. People think survival ends when the danger is gone. But the truth is, survival only begins when you open your eyes the next morning and realize the nightmare followed you home. Leaving the hospital wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of another kind of battle. My body was a map of scars, angry lines running across my leg, reminders carved into my flesh by teeth I would never forget. Every step was pain. Every movement a reminder of how close I had come to losing everything. I had to relearn simple things. Standing, walking, even trusting my own body again. But the hardest wounds weren't the ones you could see. Nights were the worst. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart racing, convinced I could hear the rush of water and feel the pull of teeth dragging me down again. I avoided the mirror because the reflection staring back wasn't me. It was someone broken, someone afraid. Friends tried to comfort me, telling me how strong I was, how lucky. But luck felt like a cruel joke. Because I didn't just survive. I carried the ocean with me. In every nightmare, in every silence. Some days, the ocean called me back. I'd stand on the shore, staring at the horizon, torn between fear and longing. The waves that once gave me freedom now whispered threats, shadows moving beneath their surface. And yet, part of me wanted to dive in again, as if confronting the sea was the only way to take back my life. But courage doesn't come easy when you've seen death so close. The world saw me as a survivor. But inside, I wrestled with guilt, with anger, with the haunting question, why me? Why did I live when so many don't? My scars weren't just marks of survival. They were marks of responsibility. I had been given another chance. But at a cost I still struggled to understand. And as I limped forward, step by step, I began to realize something important. Survival wasn't about escaping death. It was about what you choose to do with the life you've been given after you've stared death in the face. The shark had taken a piece of me, but it hadn't taken my voice. And with that voice, I knew I had to share the truth of what it means to survive. The ocean tried to silence me. But survival isn't just about escaping death. It's about choosing what to say once you've lived through it. I carry the scars, and I carry the memories. For years, I tried to run from them, to bury them deep, to pretend the ocean hadn't marked me. But scars have a way of speaking. They remind you every day that you're different now, that you've seen what most people will never see. And so I realized, if I couldn't erase what happened, I had to give it meaning. When people ask me about that day, they expect me to speak about fear. And yes, there was fear. Fear so deep it stole the air from my lungs. But there was something else too. Resilience. The human body is fragile, but the human spirit. The human spirit is stronger than teeth, stronger than shadows, stronger than death itself. That's what I discovered in those moments when the ocean tried to take me. I no longer see sharks as monsters. They are what they are. Predators. Ancient and powerful. Creatures of instinct. I was in their world, and I paid the price. But hating them won't heal me. Understanding them will. Because survival is not just about me. It's about respecting the balance of life, even when it nearly destroys you. To anyone listening, I want you to remember this. Fear is real. Danger is real. But so is hope. You don't know how strong you are until strength is the only choice you have. The scars on my body are not signs of weakness. They are proof that I fought, that I endured, that I refused to let the ocean have the last word. The shark took flesh, but it didn't take my life. And as long as I breathe, my story isn't about the attack. It's about survival.